Thank you for joining me for another ITY video. I have with me today Danny Adams. He is the founder of GOFAR. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Now, I heard about GOFAR on Radio 2GB in the past couple of days, and I thought, wow, this sounds like a really cool thing. So the first question to ask you is in short, we'll go into more detail, but what is GOFAR in a nutshell, and why did you decide to start the company?
Sure, so I'll start with why.
Yeah.
So basically, Australians spend a fortune of time and money on our cars.
Yeah.
We spend $30 billion a year on fuel alone. We dump millions of tonnes of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
When you take your car to the mechanic, you'll never know how much they're going to charge you.
Yeah.
One thing you know for sure, though, is it's going to be a painful experience.
Yeah.
It always is.
Yeah.
When it comes to insurance, you know that as a good driver, which I'm sure you are.
Mm-hmm. I am actually, but yeah.
Of course. We're subsidising the bad drivers.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're one of the millions of Australians that need to keep a logbook for your
business
travel in your personal car,
yeah, a painful thing.
you know it's a pain.
Yeah.
So those are a few of the things that we wanted to solve.
Well, what was the catalyst for you when you thought, there's some problem and I can solve it? You know, what was that moment?
Well, it was these things kind of reveal themselves in time.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that I was actually working to do
Yeah.
was to measure carbon emissions, because carbon emissions are a big problem in
Yeah.
the world. And the idea was that if we could measure emissions
and help people to reduce them,
yes,
with technology,
then we can make an impact on
Planet
emissions
Earth.
globally.
Yeah.
And, this is an ongoing and very important
well,
thing.
it would have been a technology you could have used in every car on the planet.
That's right. Yeah.
So how did it then further evolve into becoming a product that does, and you'll tell us about it in a second, but does so much more than just doing that?
Yeah. So look, I was working nights and weekends as most of these things start
Entrepreneurs
off.
do, yeah.
Doing the sort of 9
with a
hours.
real job somewhere else, yeah.
With a real job, plus the second or the third and the fourth job.
Yeah.
Doing the 90-hour-a-week thing, and I developed some IP around some patents around the technology. And it came a time when I realised that I really had to choose one or the other. I thought that if I worked harder, I could make it happen and keep the full-time job and do my own thing. But I realised that wasn't going to happen, so I had to make the choice to go full-time on GOFAR.
So what does GOFAR do?
So GOFAR connects your car. So GOFAR makes your regular old car a connected car.
A smart car.
A smart car.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is part of GOFAR. This is the GOFAR adapter.
Yeah, let's have a look here. I can see that it's got a connector here that this is called the ODB2 socket, right?
That's right, OBT.
OBT, yeah.
OBD2.
OBD, and what does it stand for?
Onboard Diagnostics.
Okay,
Yeah.
And so this plugs into your car?
That plugs into the car, usually just under the steering wheel. There's a little socket that goes straight in.
Something normally only for the mechanic?
Well, it's been mandated globally, almost globally now. So fortunately for us, we're basically compatible with cars, universally.
Yeah.
Which is great. So it's not just for the mechanic. You can use it.
Well, I mean, previously it was for the mechanic, but now with the rise of GOFAR, it's available for anybody to use.
That's right. Yeah.
And so the sort of information that it delivers to you, and how does it deliver? To your phone, your tablet?
Yeah. So there's 3 parts to GOFAR. We have this adapter.
Yeah.
We have the dash-mounted display. There's a Formula One inspired display which uses a string of LED lights to communicate to the driver.
Which sort of reminds me a little bit of Kit from which had the lights, but that was more for the front of the car and for TV. But anyway,
it was, but it has been likened to Kit.
Yeah.
Before.
And the cable there. What's that cable?
So that joins the two together.
Okay.
And then we have a mobile application.
Yeah. Now let me just zoom in on that. So talk us through that.
Sure. So this Bluetooth connects to the OBD GOFAR adapter, and all of your data is visible on the phone.
Yeah.
So to solve some of the problems that we were talking about before.
Yeah. Let me zoom in on the screen there. So just to talk us through some of the things that we're looking at there.
Yeah. So you can see at the top of the screen. I'll just in there.
Yeah.
So you can see it.
There we go. We've got 85 accelerate, 82 braking. Tell us about that.
We can see our dashboard up here at the top of the screen, and I can see how many kilometres I've travelled, how much fuel I've used, how much I've spent on fuel in the last week.
Mm-hmm.
At the top, you can see the score, so I can get a score on my driving for my accelerating and braking.
They're just like businesses have these dashboards for their business. This is the dashboard,
for your car.
the modern dashboard for your car, not just the dashboard you have in front of you, but the one that gives you the information you've never really had before.
That's right.
Or that you might have had through some sort of, fiddly trip computer that was not really that helpful.
Yeah, and you can't get anything out of it, right?
Yeah.
You can just see it on the screen, but it can't be retrieved. Now, this also connects to a global leaderboard, which is really cool, right? So you can compete with other people around the world and see just how good a driver you are.
Right, yeah.
And so far I'm, number 9, that's pretty good.
That's you, is it?
It is, but I must confess this is our staging group.
Okay.
This is not the big global leaderboard, this is the
world.
little global leaderboard.
Sure.
So
Are there other features you want to show us on the...
Sure, so the product keeps a full digital log of all of your trips automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, for instance, pop in and have a look at a particular trip you've done.
Okay, yeah. And that's on a trip-by-trip basis?
On a trip-by-trip basis.
Yeah. Show us, keep going.
So you can see the trip, you can see how much you spent on that individual trip.
Yeah.
And the kilometres that you travel.
And the exact amount of fuel and...
All of that.
Incredible.
In detail.
Yeah. It's not just the GPS, but it's everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of detail in there. If you're interested, you can pop in there.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to expenses, I mentioned before that keeping a logbook is a real pain, and if you've done it before, you know that people avoid it, and they usually lose money because they avoid it, because it is just
well, they just do it for the minimum, right, which is 3 months or something.
Or I know people that don't even do that. It's like, it's such a pain, I'm not even going to bother, and I don't want to know how much it's costing.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
We want to make that easy. So as I mentioned, we've got the full digital log. If I wanted to nominate a trip as a business trip, I can just swipe right.
Yep. Awesome. And that's on a trip-by-trip basis?
On a trip-by-trip basis. I can go down.
So now you can actually say this was a personal trip, this was a business trip.
That's right. So I can make that a business.
Ka-ching.
Ching. I can make that a business trip.
Yeah.
Now I can scroll to the top and I can see my business claim for this week is $109.
And how do you export that to give to the accountant? It's just a Excel spreadsheet or
pop
something?
Pop in and export your data to an email address.
Yeah.
And
you say, Mr. Accountant, here it is.
Yeah.
And can they import that into their MYOBs or zeros?
They can, yeah. So that they can take the
raw
file,
data, the file,
and do what they need to do with it. So in terms of the user's experience, it's just there's the trips. Nominate the ones that are business by swiping right, and export it to your accountant.
Yeah,
it's
easy.
A whole lot easier than what it's been in the past.
So what other features are there? Because I know there's more.
There is indeed.
Which is all part of the fun of the app and the experience. I mean, it's almost like gamifying your driving.
It is
to a degree.
It's gamifying. I mean, it's also easing the pain that you'd otherwise
delivering actionable intelligence. I was having a chat with one of your other members, and they were saying, or one of your staff, and they were saying that I was saying that it reminds me of all those business buzzwords like digital transformation. Well, here's a real world example for you doing it with your own data from your own car.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me show you another.
Please.
Another feature that we have.
Yep. Scrolling through.
So GOFAR is, as I said before, it's plugged into the diagnostics port.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always reading the condition of your car.
Yeah.
Now, if it detects a problem, right away you'll get a push notification to your phone, just like this one.
Yeah.
And
it
it's
says there
tell you
it's detected a problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then does it actually say what the problem is?
So then you can open that notification up.
Yeah.
And it will give you an explanation in plain English. Is about 300 codes for which you get a full plain English explanation.
Excellent. So this one here says it's resolve as soon as possible. Risk of breakdown or engine failure. A fault has been detected with your engine's mass airflow sensor. This generally requires that the sensor be cleaned or replaced. This problem can cause significant engine performance issues. So you can actually go to your mechanic and say, I know what the problem is. I just want you to fix this, and not the other problems that aren't problems that you want to try and get me to fix.
Knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
So GOFAR makes drivers informed drivers and therefore powerful drivers when it comes to negotiating with mechanics. And we have a wonderful story with this
Yeah,
product.
please tell us.
We had a customer that bought a second-hand car
Yeah,
from a dealer, and he knew that there was a problem with it, but didn't know.
but couldn't
quite.
nail down what it was.
It just wasn't working the way that it should, right?
Yeah.
So he took it back to the dealer, and they told him, "No, we checked it. There's no problem."
Okay, you got the runaround.
He got the runaround
Yeah.
because he took it back 3 times
Yeah.
and got the same answer.
Yeah.
He bought GOFAR.
Yeah.
He installed it in his car. Within about 5 minutes, GOFAR detected the problem. He got a notification right to his phone.
You got the error code.
Got the error code. He took it back to the dealer, put the information in front of them, and said, "There is a problem. This is the problem, and you fix it." And guess what?
They fixed it.
They fixed it,
And then the car was driving smoothly.
and now it's fine.
Yeah.
So it's a powerful tool to be used by anyone who has a car.
So when did you guys start?
This is something that I've been working on since 2009.
Yeah.
It's just myself.
Almost a decade, not quite.
Yeah.
It's one of it takes that long to be an overnight success, right?
It does, and when you say it that way, it sounds
Yeah.
like a long time.
Yeah.
And look, it was nights and weekends, hard toil, and for a number of years I was on my own with it. And then I discovered the startup community, and I discovered fish burners
Yeah.
here in Ultimo.
Which I've heard about. Yeah, they're not too far away from here.
And
how did they help you?
So I joined Fish Burners, and that was the networking mecca for startups. That's where things started to really kick off. That's where I learned how to build a team. That's where I learned how to get funding.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of the connections around meeting investors and meeting what would be future team members came about.
And so you managed to get some local angel funding?
We did. So we got some local seed funding from a group of Sydney investors. We at the same time were sort of starting to build the team up. So it went from 1 person to 2 and then to 4.
Well, you had some money to start employing some people to help accelerate the business?
Well, in fact, people joined before the money came in.
Which is also a great sign that people believe in the project.
And that's the way that the startup community works.
Yeah.
It's about the idea and believing in the idea and wanting to be part of something bigger, as opposed to I want a salary of 200k
Sure.
and I don't care what.
And just as we're on this, is there any advice you have for startups watching this now, going, "Oh, I want to emulate your success"? Besides, all the hard work and all that.
Yeah, look, you got to work hard.
Yeah.
That's probably the key thing. You need to work hard, and there's never going to be a comfortable time to make the big decision around. People have ideas that they're interested in pursuing, and some people hold on to those ideas to the grave. Because there isn't a right time.
Yeah.
So
They're never stepping out of their comfort zone, as it were.
you need to. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You need to make the tough
That's
decision.
where growth happens, right?
It does, and it's an uncomfortable time when you do that.
So when did you go to Kickstarter?
So we did Kickstarter in 2015.
Yeah.
So we did our initial seed funding round in 2014, and we went to Kickstarter in May. It was May the 4th.
Yeah. May the 4th be with you.
That's right, in 2015.
May you go far. And how long was the campaign? 30 days, 90 days?
30-day campaign.
30 days, yeah. And what was the amount you were looking for?
We were looking for $50,000, if I remember correctly.
And where did you get to?
Well, we got to just shy of $250,000 Aussie dollars in
So
the
that's
campaign.
nearly a quintupling. So people really went for it.
They did, and it was an exciting time.
Yeah.
It was a time with little sleep,
Yeah.
and it was a time with it was fun, a lot of fun.
And you must have been investigating the factories, presumably in China, that could make the product for you and to the right standard,
Yeah,
and
look,
packaging and marketing and everything.
Concurrently, yes. So that work preceded the Kickstarter campaign.
As it has to, because you've got to outline your plan for people to see.
It does indeed. So we had a fully, the design work had been completed. So we had our prototype, which is a representative of the final product.
Yeah.
But to go from there to full-scale production is not a simple exercise.
Well, we see a lot of Kickstarter and Indiegogo companies find that out, and then like the delivery blows out by months or years. So,
well, I joke that we did deliver on our Kickstarter campaign, and that's kind of a rare thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so many stories, especially these days, with campaigns that have raised millions of dollars and then
Gone bust.
They don't deliver.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I see now things like Indiegogo. They have guaranteed delivery. You know, they have to advertise things that you're definitely going to get because people have been burnt.
Right, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Look, I've purchased things off Indiegogo that have arrived months later. They eventually arrived. Luckily, I've never been burnt, but I've heard plenty of stories where they have. So I mean, kudos to you for delivering on time. And
well,
here we are in 2017.
Almost on time.
Almost. We're quite good. That's a lot better than months later. You know?
Yeah. So yeah, we delivered on the Kickstarter. The mass production thing required a few trips to Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of sleepless nights.
Tweaking and toing and froing.
And
testing.
at the last minute, we had a manufacturer suddenly send us a new quote that was double the old quote. And just after we'd locked in and gone all the way down to the line.
And what happened there? In that
well, it was a lot of sleepless nights and a trip on the plane over to Taiwan to resolve
the
it.
deal. Yeah. And was obviously resolved.
It was resolved. In the end, we had to go for a second or a different
manufacturer,
a different partner. There.
Well, hey, good. I mean, it teaches that guy a lesson. You can't just double the price of somebody, and that guy wouldn't have had good feedback from you. I mean, you're not going to be telling other people in this space to use that guy if he's. So, I mean, clearly the new partner's been
excellent. But unfortunately, that is one of the tactics. So in hindsight, now I have this lesson.
Yeah.
That's one of the tactics I use.
Right.
And I wasn't aware of that.
Maybe that's the reason why some of the other projects blow out because the manufacturing partner pulls a Swiftie on them.
That's one of the long list of reasons. Yeah. It's really tough. To develop, to manufacture, and to deliver,
and then support and.
It's so hard, you know.
But we live in an era where people like yourself are doing this, and it's like you couldn't dream of doing this 50 years ago, but here we are doing it today.
No, just the simple. No, it would have been possible 50 years ago.
Now that was 2015. So how big are you now? And how many countries is GOFAR in, and what's the response been like?
Yeah, so look, that was 2015.
Yeah.
We delivered our GOFAR units in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So our first users are now just over a year old.
Yeah. Great place to be.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
We're in 49 countries.
Excellent.
And we have millions and millions of kilometres travelled.
Yeah.
On the GOFAR product. Yeah, it's really cool.
And presumably the hardware is the same, but there's been a lot of software tweaks.
So the hardware has been exactly the same since the initial release, but there has been software releases. When we first released, we were doing software releases. Sorry, when we first shipped the hardware, we were doing software releases weekly, fortnightly.
Yeah.
There were a lot of, in startups,
updates. Yeah.
Everything is on a knife's edge.
Yeah.
And you just have to get it done just well enough to get it out.
Otherwise, it'll never get out.
And there's a few things that you have to do right the first time, and there's a few things that you can come and clean up later.
Yeah.
Software is one of those things that you can come back,
thankfully,
and do updates and and fix it later.
So presumably the updates are not as frequent now because you've had all this time to maintain it. Yeah. But there still obviously are updates that you do.
There still are updates, probably once a month.
Yeah.
Sometimes
because things have matured.
But that's for new feature releases. Yeah. So the product is mature now at this stage. So we've gone through the list of compatibility in terms of we're compatible with petrol cars, diesel cars, hybrid cars, LPG cars. So we've rounded out that list. We're now compatible with iOS and Android.
Excellent,
so we've ticked those boxes, and those are things that we've done
over the past year and a half.
Yeah. Yes.
So I see behind you have a prestigious Good Design Award. I love the Good Design people. And you have another trophy there. So tell us about those two awards.
Sure. So we'll start with the Good Design Award. That's a really exciting one.
That is a great one. That was last year, right?
That was last year.
Yeah.
So the Good Design Award was particularly for the GOFAR. It's a GOFAR unit, but the Ray is the standout. This is the piece that really caught them.
And so what are the lights that come here? And just in a nutshell, what do they tell you?
Yeah. So when it's running, you see a string of LEDs. If it's glowing a calm blue, it means that everything is in the sweet spot.
Yep.
And if it's glowing an angry red, you know that things are not optimal.
Yeah.
So in terms of in terms of the way this works in driver feedback, we have people that are saving on average 10% on their fuel.
And how are they doing that?
So it's a real-time feedback loop, and it just, when you see the red, you tend to back off what you're doing.
Not hit the accelerator so hard.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's just a subtle reminder, and people just naturally make small changes to the way they're driving.
Yeah.
And it results in savings of 10+%.
Which
is
can
awesome.
add to a big amount these days.
Yeah, so we have one particular customer. He's an Uber driver, and he saves $1,500 a year.
That's insane.
Because he's driving so much.
So that Good Design Award was for that interface.
So it's for the whole unit, but this is the standout. We worked on this together with Co-Creators, which is an industrial design company that partnered with us to develop this product, and we were lucky enough to win the Good Design Award.
Yeah.
In our category, which was consumer electronics, our competition included Microsoft.
Yeah.
It included Facebook.
Yeah.
And we
won.
We came away with an award, and we do think that they probably had bigger budgets.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Yeah. and the what about the other trophy behind you?
So this is our Sid Start trophy. It's now known as StartCon.
Yeah.
So
I remember
changed their
StartCon.
name.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, let me just zoom in on that there. Yeah. And that was in 2014.
2014,
yeah.
and the name changed to StartCon from 2015.
Yeah.
So we won the startup pitching competition, which
Excellent.
was a really exhilarating.
And that was, of course, when you were with the fish burners at that, before the Kickstarter. That was sort of at the cusp of you changing from it being a hobby to it being, hey, this is going to be, real. That's
right, and it's one of the catalysts that led to the investment round happening. It's one of the catalysts that led to the team growing. It's one of the catalysts that led to a successful Kickstarter campaign.
Is this IP something we're going to see that you're able to sell to car companies to put directly into future cars?
We're talking to car companies about exactly that. Yeah. They tend to move a little slower than startups.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So those are meetings and conversations that we are working through today.
And what else does the future hold? I mean, in 10 years, presumably every car will be autonomous, and the only cars will be like Mad Max, cars. You wonder where they get the petrol in those movies, but the older cars, they'll still be on the road. They'll be classic cars. We have them today. But what happens when all the cars are autonomous?
Yeah. So to answer that question, it might be worth showing you a few of the other features.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because look, I mean, I'd love an autonomous car, but I don't know at this moment if I trust it. There's a lot of questions around that too.
Well, I think that was one of the issues. Obviously, the legal questions are some of the big ones around insurance. Who's responsible?
And we've heard the question. We've heard that ethical dilemma where there's a bunch of kids on the road. The car swerves. Does it kill the kids if it can't safely go around them, or does it smack you into the wall and kill you? Yeah. Who's responsible? Will you get into a car that might kill you? All that sort of stuff. And I mean, you guys have a long period where people won't trust them. I mean, decades probably still, but even so, autonomous is coming.
And we've heard that story where perhaps users could pay an extra subscription fee to make sure that they're not the ones that get killed. And this is a really difficult ethical dilemma.
Yeah. So what are the extra features you were going to show us?
Sure. So let me just. So when obviously we're tracking your vehicle usage now. When you come due for a service, GOFAR detects that without you having to think about it or even to worry about the service coming up. It detects it. It will go out and get an excellent quote for your service
from a range of different mechanics.
We have a particular partner that we work with in Sydney today, which offer excellent service, and they have a very similar philosophy to us, which is why we're choosing to work with them.
And they're obviously, able to check this information, and it tells them what is, wrong with the car and what needs to be done.
So this is for your scheduled service in particular. So this is what you will get.
Yeah, I can see that label 139, parts 58, got a discount for a GOFAR customer.
So you've got a transparent quote. You can see exactly what you're going to get. Just you can Google search the parts that you're going to get.
Sure.
You can check it all out.
You don't get that from your regular mechanic.
You do not.
Yeah.
We've negotiated a $50 discount off the going rate for the service.
Yeah. And look, a service for $197. That's good price. That's a good price. Normally you pay $300 or something like that.
Look,
so,
it's
or more depending on what's going on.
It's a really good deal.
Yeah.
And basically, to book the service, you just hit the book button, and away you go.
And then this is where you will take your car to them, or they might have somebody that can come to you.
They'll come to you. Yeah. So you'll just need to choose a time and a place that you want the service done, and they'll come to you and do it. So it puts the power back in your hands. You're not taking your car to the dealer and hoping for the best and knowing you're going to end up getting a bigger bill than you expected. Now, you see what you're going to pay. You'll pay not 1 cent more than that. Yeah. Knowledge is power, and there it is in front of you. I
mean, you might go to the mechanic and they might say, hey, your tyres are bald, you should consider, getting those changed, and that would be something where you might pay more, but that's different. I mean, the GOFAR can't measure the amount of tread on your tyres, as an example.
We do measure the amount of kilometres on your tyres.
So you can guess how you intelligently figure out, hey, maybe you should check your tyres too. Oh, well, that's clever. So it should.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about for insurance purposes? You've got insurance companies wanting to use this data to offer, like you see those UE commercials on TV, you drive less. I mean, surely this must be something that you're working with those guys too.
We're working on getting that into the product at the moment. So that's something we would really like to see in the near future.
Yeah. So what do you want to show us here?
We're just the tracking. We were talking about the tyres before. So you can set it up and tell it when you get a new set of tyres.
Yeah.
And it will then track the tyre condition from there based on the amount of kilometres you'd expect to do.
Is there anything you can't track with the car?
Well, we do track your registration.
Actually, I remember, I heard on the radio, you get a reminder as to when you register. Now that we don't have stickers anymore.
Well, we don't have stickers. Yeah. And people, it's a big problem for a lot of people that we're getting fines because we're forgetting about the registration.
Look, once I just totally forgot. Instead of renewing my license for years and years, I did it for 1 year. And I forgot. And I got stopped by the police and they said, where's your other license? And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, this one's expired. It was like 2 weeks. And I had to leave the car there and I had to get my license and on the next Monday.
Did they book you?
They did because I had no excuse. It was like 2 weeks. It wasn't under a week. If it had been a few days, it would have let me off. But no, I got booked, and look, I paid the fine, and I mean, I was totally in the wrong. I had no excuse, and I had to leave it around the corner, and luckily, no one did anything to it. But I mean, presumably, you could always add a thing there saying, "Hey, tell us what your license expiry is. We'll remind you about that too." If you wanted to do that,
we could add that as a feature, certainly.
Yeah.
So, look. Just to come back to the autonomous car question.
Yeah. Because it took us down the scenic route to get there.
So we've talked about the features around servicing. Mm-hmm. Now, autonomous vehicles still need maintenance. So in the future, and I think autonomous cars are probably a bit further off than what some of the very optimistic estimates are putting it.
Yeah.
And when I say autonomous, I'm talking about level 5, fully autonomous vehicles that you could walk into a dealership, buy, and leave in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
And never ever sit in the driver's seat. This is the fully autonomous world that
the vision
that we expect to happen. It's going to be a bit longer away than people think. Yeah. But they still need maintenance. So in the future, where cars are automatically connected, it means that we can transition away from the hardware and purely transition over to a software and the service platform play, and be an important part of the ecosystem of supporting driverless cars in the future.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't want your driverless car to break down and to have a driverless NRMA turn up to serve.
But they will break down because they are cars. They're not magic.
That's it.
And they will need maintenance, and they will break down and require servicing. So if we can be part of that in the future, then it's a great future for GOFAR.
Yeah. And clearly you're thinking about it right now and positioning yourself for that and building up the IP for that. So that's brilliant stuff. So look, as we get towards the end of the interview, I always like to sort of change gears a little bit. And you may have mentioned this a little bit when I asked you about advice for other startups, but what is the best piece of advice or some great advice that you've received that's really helped you to get where you are today?
Sure. So it's something from my father, and he told me, never deal with people in a way that would make them not want to deal with you again in the future.
Kind of like the golden rule.
And that's something that I stick by, and I think it has served me very well. And especially in the startup community, it's a small community here in Sydney, and if you behave in a way that's not ethical or not right and not fair, you'll you'll soon fall on hard times.
You'll be ejected. Yes. So, what's your, or do you have any final messages for IT Wire viewers and readers, and for your current and future customers?
Look, I hope you've enjoyed this interview.
I have. It's been great.
Look, it's with Father's Day coming up, I think this is a great gift idea.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
awesome to.
Mothers too.
Mother's Day as well.
Yeah, that's it.
why
Yeah.
not?
Well, Christmas is coming soon.
And sons and
I
daughters.
mean, it sounds like it's it's something that everybody should have if they're cars compatible, which would be most of the modern cars.
Yeah, look, in Australia, petrol cars since 2006 and diesel cars since 2007 are absolutely compatible.
Yeah.
But a lot of the earlier cars are still compatible.
Yeah. I mean, mine's a 2005 Mazda 6, so we're going to find out
We're
very
gonna
shortly
find out.
whether it works.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, it'll be a shame, but hopefully it will. And look, it's still, I mean, we've got a pretty modern fleet here in Australia as far as I'm aware. So it should be good times for you in the future.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Well, I really do hope you go far. I really thank you for your time today, and we're going to go downstairs now and see. I'll be looking forward to doing a review if it works, and if not, I'll have to think about getting a better car. So, Danny, thank you very much.
Thank
Best
you.
of luck, and
Pleasure.
we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
Bye bye.